You ever noticed how you can get really unclear or your clarity starts getting fuzzy right when you get to a key moment in whatever the project it is that you're doing? It's like yesterday or even 20 minutes ago. You knew exactly what to do and why you were doing it. But for some reason right now, it's almost like the closer you get to it, the further apart everything starts to drift and the less clear it becomes. Well, the good news is this is not a logic problem. This is not about working harder. You're not losing your mind, and you probably don't need that extra pot of coffee. But the one thing you can't do is just power through it, because this is actually a really common problem. So I'm going to explain. Almost nobody talks about it, and even fewer people show you how to fix it. And I'm going to do both in this video. So let me paint a clear picture here. You're working on creating a piece of content, maybe a course. You've probably mapped it out. Maybe you've started scripting, and then you start doing. And at first, everything is flowing really nicely until that one part, where you're maybe not quite sure how to present something. And that's when all of a sudden it gets a little bit fuzzy. Tell yourself, oh, I can totally figure this out. So you jump onto Google, jump into YouTube, and you get into learning. So if any of that sounds even slightly familiar, you're going to want to pay attention to this. You already know your conscious mind is where you do your thinking and where you make the decision to order food if you don't feel like cooking. Probably also heard that there's a much bigger piece of your mind, which is your subconscious. And that's the thing that's responsible for all of the other stuff. But the one thing that it is absolutely serious about doing is keeping us safe. Now, a long time ago, if you were outside of the cave picking berries or something and you heard a twig snap, you would hightail it out of there. Because if you didn't, there was a high level chance that you could get eaten. But today, we don't really have to worry about lions, tigers, and bears. Today, it's uncertainty. No, this is not some sort of woo-woo mystic kind of thing. This is actually backed by science. In 2003, researchers at UCLA showed that the amygdala, which is the part of the brain that is responsible for detecting threat, activates not just for physical threat, but for social and performance-based as well. What that means is your brain doesn't do that great of a job separating bear coming to eat you from this might not go viral. So this is why anytime you get to any part of the process that you're even slightly unsure about, that uncertainty actually gets flagged in your subconscious as an actual threat. Your subconscious lights up and it does what it does oh so well. It has a lot of tools available, but the one that it likes the most, especially today, is flooding your brain with uncertainty, doubt, and confusion. Because what happens every single time? You almost always slip back into learning mode. And once you're in learning mode, you start feeling comfortable again, even confident. You go from this whole, I don't know what to do next, into, oh, I can totally figure this out. And that's because learning feels safe and familiar. But your subconscious doesn't stop there. It also hands it a script. And the worst parts are, it's written in your own voice. It's actually kind of true. I should probably learn this stuff a little better. I don't want to do this wrong. I don't want to look stupid in front of friends and family. And the thing is, none of that's particularly unrational. And that actually makes it particularly dangerous, because the hardest thing to argue against is essentially logical logic. But the fact remains that if you don't do the thing, you don't get the outcome. Going back into that research learning mode, it feels productive. And this is how hardworking, intelligent, well-meaning people stay trapped, a lot of times for years. You've probably heard that phrase, book smarts versus street smarts. All that really means is that there's a pretty big difference between learning something in theory versus having the knowledge that comes with actually doing it. And that's the clarity that we're missing when we switch from doing back into learning. So what we're going to do is take this action down a few levels and literally turn it into the same idea as a warm-up for a workout. I'm sure you can easily bench 10 pounds. So what we're going to do here is make this the equivalent of 2. Start by doing this. Tell yourself that you've been hired by someone else to do this thing. This can be somebody you've made up, or it can be your future self, because it technically is. And also, you've already been paid to do it. Now it's part of your responsibility. So you should set a deadline. Not something far off, but like tomorrow or even this afternoon. Something kind of like crazy short. You want to create urgency with this, because external pressure beats internal conflict every single time. The second thing you're going to do is, if we're talking about creating a piece of content, I want you to set up a brand new account on whatever platform it is that you're thinking of publishing. Make it private. You will have zero audience. You will have no fans, no followers. You're not going to tell anybody about this thing, because now when you post stuff, no one's gonna know. And that effectively eliminates every logical argument that you can make with yourself. There are literally zero consequences to any of this. And this is you repping out that 2-pound weight, which you can obviously do on your own. And in most cases, You only need to do it once. Because when you take action like this, it makes the unfamiliar familiar. And so what most people notice when they do this is that really big resistance that they had in the beginning is completely gone. I'm Johnny Andrews. Let me know in the comments below how this helped. See you in the next one.